Everyone ignored the lost old woman wandering through the grocery store that night. Everyone except the single father stocking shelves in aisle 7. His name doesn't matter yet. What matters is the 9-year-old girl watching from the break room doorway. What matters is the choice he's about to make. Right now, 3 weeks later, that same father sits at a piano in a crowded city council chamber. His daughter sits behind him in the second row, hands folded so tightly her knuckles are white. She shouldn't be here. He told her to stay home. But she's learned that when the world tries to hurt her father, staying home isn't an option. A man in an expensive suit is speaking at the podium. His voice carries across the silent room. This individual exploited a vulnerable elderly woman for financial gain. The father's hands rest on piano keys. They're shaking. His daughter has seen those hands do so many things. Sign permission slips. Make her breakfast on a hot plate. Hold hers when she's scared. But she's never seen them shake like this. 3 weeks ago, those hands, he lost his job for it. He couldn't make rent. She started skipping lunch at school to save money, and when he found out, something broke in him she'd never seen break before. Now someone is calling him a predator in front of 200 witnesses. The billionaire whose mother he saved stands to defend him, but he stops her with a raised hand. He turns to the piano. His daughter leans forward. She knows what this costs him. He hasn't touched a piano in 3 years. Not since the day her mother died. She mouths words he can't see. Go, Dad. The second is stronger. And then the room disappears, and there's only the music and the memory of the woman who taught him that kindness matters more than safety. If you believe that doing the right thing should mean something, if you've ever watched someone you love suffer for being good, stay with this story, because what happens next will break your heart and put it back together. Before we begin, subscribe and tell me in the comments, would you risk everything to help a stranger? But to understand how we got here, how a grocery store worker ended up playing Chopin in front of his accusers, we need to go back to a rainy Thursday night, to an old woman everyone ignored, and to the man who couldn't walk past her, even though it would cost him everything. Marcus Chen woke at 5:45, the same way he woke every morning. No alarm. Just the weight of habit and the knowledge that his daughter needed breakfast before the school bus came. He moved quietly through the small apartment. 1 bedroom. A kitchen barely wide enough for 2 people to stand side by side. A living room that doubled as his sleeping space. The couch folded out into a bed he made every morning before Lily woke. The sheets were always tucked tight by the time she opened her eyes. The apartment was small, but it was clean. That mattered to him. On the kitchen counter sat a tiny origami heart folded from purple construction paper. Lily had left it there the night before. He picked it up. The words, "You're my hero," were written in her careful 4th-grade handwriting. He set it on the windowsill next. 6 hearts lined up in a row, each one a different color, each one a message she thought he needed to hear. On the mantel above the electric heater sat a framed photograph, a woman with dark hair and bright eyes, laughing at something off camera. Elena, 3 years gone, but her face still the first thing he saw when he walked into the room. He started the coffee maker and pulled 2 eggs from the refrigerator. The carton had 4 left. That would get them to Friday if he was careful. At 6:15, he knocked softly on Lily's door. "Morning, sweetheart." She appeared a moment later, still in her pajamas, hair tangled from sleep. She was small for 9, all elbows and knees, but her eyes were sharp. She noticed things, too many things, sometimes. She looked at his boots by the door while he scrambled the eggs. The soles were wearing through on the right side. He'd put cardboard inside last week to cover the hole. "Dad, are those the only shoes you have?" "They're fine," he said. "They've got plenty of life left." She didn't argue. She'd learned not to. But she looked at him the way she sometimes did, like she was solving a problem in her head that she was too young to have to solve. They ate breakfast together at the small table. He gave her the bigger portion. She didn't notice, or if she did, she didn't say anything. At 7, he walked her to the bus stop 3 blocks away. Portland rain hung in the air, not quite falling, just making everything damp and gray. She held his hand the whole way. "You have everything?" he asked. "Lunch money? Homework?" "Yes, Dad." "And you're going to Mrs. Ramirez's house after school?" "Then I'm coming to the store." He nodded. Thursday was his long shift, pharmacy counter duty during the evening rush. Extra hours meant extra pay, and rent was due in 9 days. The bus pulled up. She turned and hugged him hard around the waist. "Love you," she said. "Love you too, Lily." He watched until the bus turned the corner. Then he walked back to the apartment, changed into his work uniform, and caught the number 12 bus to the grocery store. The store was a 24-hour operation on the east side of Portland. Big, fluorescent, always half empty. Marcus clocked in at 8:30 and reported to the overnight manager, a tired woman named Carla who barely looked up from her clipboard. "Aisles 4 through 9 need facing," she said. "Then mop the produce section. Deliveries coming at 11. "Got it." He worked methodically, pulling cans forward on shelves so the labels faced out, straightening boxes so the labels faced out, straightening boxes, making everything look neat for customers who wouldn't notice. He'd been doing this job for 2 years and 7 months. Before that, another stocking job at a diner. Nobody at the store knew what he'd been before that. A co-worker named Sam passed him in aisle 6, pushing a pallet jack loaded with paper towels. "Hey, Marcus, you working the double today?" "Yeah." "Covering pharmacy?" "That's rough, man. Good luck." Sam kept moving. That was the extent of most conversations. Marcus didn't mind. That was the extent of most conversations. He was here to pay rent and keep Lily fed and make sure she never had to worry about the things he worried about. At 3:30, his regular shift ended. He took his break in the employees' room, a windowless space with a microwave and a vending machine that never worked. He ate the sandwich he'd packed, peanut butter on bread. He checked his phone. No messages. At 4, he started the second shift. The pharmacy counter was near the front of the store, behind a half-height wall with a register and a computer. His job was simple: check people out, answer basic questions, page the pharmacist if anything complicated came up. By 4:45, Lily arrived. She came through the automatic doors with her purple backpack covered in pins and headed straight for the break room. She knew the routine: homework until his break at 6. Then she'd sit with him for 15 minutes before going back to wait until his shift ended at 9. He saw her wave at him as she passed. He waved back. At 5:30, the evening rush started. The store filled with people stopping on their way home from work. Tired faces, impatient voices. Nobody looked at him. He was part of the store, like the shelves and the fluorescent lights. Invisible. At 6, Lily was waiting in the employee room with her math homework spread across the table. "How's it going?" he asked. "Fractions are stupid." "They're not stupid. They're just hard." She showed him the worksheet. He walked her through the problems, his voice low and patient. She got it on the second try. She was smart. Smarter than he'd been at her age. When his 15 minutes were up, he stood. She packed her things. "I'll be in the magazine section," she said. "Don't bother anyone. I won't." Before she left, she pulled something from her backpack. Another origami heart, this one folded from notebook paper. She set it on the table in front of him. "What's this one say?" he asked. "Open it and find out." He unfolded it carefully. The words inside read, "Best Dad." She grinned. "See you at 9." She left before he could say anything. He stood there for a moment, holding the paper hard in his calloused hands. Then he tucked it into his shirt pocket and went back to the pharmacy counter. The rest of the shift blurred together. Scanning items, counting change. His lower back throbbed from standing. At 8:45, Carla appeared at the counter. "Marcus, I need you Thursday evening, too. Jenny called in sick. You available?" Thursday evening, pharmacy counter again. Busy hours. More pay. "Yeah," he said. "I can do it. 6 to 9. I'll put you down." She walked away. He felt the weight of it settle on him. Another double shift. Another stretch of hours away from Lily. But the rent was due, and the math was simple. At 9, he clocked out. Lily met him at the employee entrance. They walked to the bus stop together in the damp port. She slipped her hand into his without a word. On the bus ride home, she leaned against his shoulder, half asleep. He looked down at her small face, peaceful in the harsh bus lighting. "Hey, Lily," he said softly. "I have to work Thursday evening, 6 to 9. You okay waiting at the store again?" She nodded against his arm. "It's okay, Dad. I know you have to." He kissed the top of her head. She smelled like school soap and pencil erasers. When they got home, he made her brush her teeth and get into bed. He tucked her in, smoothed her hair back from her forehead. "Love you, sweetheart." "Love you, too." He closed her door and stood in the hallway for a long moment. Then he unfolded the couch, made his bed, and lay down in the darkness. Rent was due in 9 days. Thursday's shift would help. It had to. He closed his eyes and thought about nothing at all until sleep finally came. Thursday evening, pharmacy counter. Busy evening, pharmacy counter. Busy hours. He'd be there. Thursday evening came with rain. Marcus stood behind the pharmacy counter watching the automatic doors slide open and closed. Each time they opened, cold air and the smell of people stopping on their way home from work, grabbing dinner ingredients, filling prescriptions, moving through the aisles with tired faces and shopping lists. He'd been at the counter for 2 hours. His lower back ached from standing. His feet hurt in the worn boots Lily had noticed that morning. The automatic doors opened again. An elderly woman stepped through. She was small, frail, wearing a coat that looked like it had been slept in. Stains darkened the fabric across the shoulders. Her gray hair hung loose and uncombed. She stood just inside the entrance, blinking at the fluorescent lights, clearly confused. Marcus watched her from across the store. She touched her coat pocket, then her other pocket, searching for something. Her hands trembled. A well-dressed couple approached the entrance. The woman saw the elderly woman first. She touched her husband's arm and whispered something. They moved wide around her, giving her space the way you'd avoid a broken shopping cart left in the middle of the aisle. The elderly woman didn't seem to notice. She started walking deeper into the store, her steps uncertain. She approached a woman pushing a cart near the produce section. "Excuse me," the elderly woman said. Her voice carried across the store, too loud, desperate. "I need to find Margaret. Can you help me get home?" The woman with the cart looked uncomfortable. She glanced around as if checking to see if anyone else was watching. Then she shook her head and pushed her cart away quickly. The elderly woman stood there, alone in the produce aisle, touching products on the shelves like she was trying to remember where she was. Marcus kept watching. Something felt wrong. Not dangerous. Just wrong. A teenager near the pharmacy pulled out his phone. He held it up, pointing the camera at the elderly woman. His friend laughed. The teenager was filming her. Marcus's jaw tightened. The elderly woman moved through the store now, asking anyone who passed. "Please, I'm looking for Margaret. Do you know how I get home?" A man in a business suit pretended he didn't hear her. A young mother with 2 kids steered them to a different aisle. The cashiers at the front registers saw her. They exchanged glances. One shrugged. Another looked away. None of them moved from their stations. Deliberate. Everyone saw her. Everyone turned away. The elderly woman's distress was growing. Her voice got louder, more frantic. She touched packages on shelves with shaking hands, picking things up and setting them down, looking for something she couldn't name. Marcus was restocking soup cans in aisle 7 when he saw it clearly. The pattern, the turned backs, the sidesteps, the uncomfortable glances. A woman in need and a store full of people pretending she didn't exist. He watched her approach a cashier. The elderly woman's face crumpled. "But I don't know where to go." The cashier looked past her to the next customer in line. Marcus's chest tightened. He saw his own mother in that confusion. The stroke had come fast, leaving her disoriented in her final months. The way she'd looked at him sometimes, lost in her own kitchen, unable to remember where she kept the cups she'd used for 30 years. He couldn't watch anymore. Marcus set down his box cutter on the shelf. The metal handle made a small sound against the wood. The store didn't go quiet exactly, but something. A few people noticed him moving, stepping out from behind the pharmacy counter, walking across the main aisle toward the elderly woman. She was near the frozen foods now, staring at the glass doors like she couldn't understand what she was seeing. People watched, some curious, some judgmental. The teenager with the phone turned the camera toward Marcus now. Marcus approached slowly. He didn't want to startle her. He lowered himself to her eye level, bending his knees so they were the same height. "Ma'am," he said softly, "are you okay? Can I help you find someone?" The elderly woman grabbed his hand with surprising strength. Her fingers were cold, trembling, but her grip was tight. "Yes," Marcus said quietly. "Let's sit down. You're safe now." He guided her gently toward the bench near the pharmacy counter. She held on to him like he was the only solid thing in a world that had stopped making sense. He helped her sit, then pulled a bottle of water from the cooler behind the counter. "Here," he said, twisting the cap open. "Drink this." She took it with shaking hands. Water spilled onto her coat. She didn't seem to notice. Marcus knelt in front of her, staying at her eye level, his knees pressed against the cold tile floor. "Can you tell me your name?" he asked. "Evelyn," she whispered. Her eyes were unfocused, frightened. "That's a beautiful name. Do you remember your last name, Evelyn?" She stared at him, her mouth opened. Nothing came out. "It's okay," Marcus said. "We'll figure it out together." He pulled his phone from his pocket and dialed the non-emergency line. While it rang, he kept his other hand extended toward Evelyn. She took it again, holding on tight, the operator. Marcus gave the address, described the situation. Elderly woman, clearly disoriented, possible dementia or Alzheimer's. "She's safe. I'll stay with her until someone gets here." He ended the call. Evelyn was still holding his hand. Near the magazine rack, Lily stood watching. She had her backpack on. Her eyes were wide. When she caught Marcus's attention, she mouthed something across the store. "You're a good person, Dad." Marcus felt his chest tighten. He gave her a small nod. Then a voice cut through the store like a blade. "Chen, what the hell are you doing?" Derek Pemberton came striding across the main aisle. He was 35, average height, wearing a tie and pressed shirt like he was running a Fortune 500 company instead of the overnight shift at a grocery store. His receding hairline caught the fluorescent light as he moved. He'd been watching the security monitors from his office. Marcus knew that. Derek loved the monitors. They made him feel important. Derek loved the monitors. They made him feel important. Derek stopped a few feet away, hands on his hips. "Look at her," Derek said, gesturing at Evelyn like she was merchandise left in the wrong aisle. "She's clearly a vagrant. This is a grocery store, not a homeless shelter." Marcus stayed kneeling. "She's lost. She needs help. She needs to leave." Derek turned to the gathering crowd. People had stopped shopping. They were watching now, phones out. The same people who'd watching now, phones out. The same people who'd walked past Evelyn minutes ago. Derek played to them like he was on stage, We have policies about loitering around, bothering customers. Chen here decides he's a social worker instead of doing. The teenager with the phone was filming everything. Derek saw it. He loved it. Derek turned back to Marcus. Get her out, now, or you're fired. Marcus didn't move. He was still holding Evelyn's hand. She was looking between him and Derek, her confusion turning to terror. Please don't make me go, she whispered. Please. Marcus looked up at Derek, then at the crowd. All those people who'd turned away from her, who were now watching his humiliation like it was entertainment. He looked at Lily. Her eyes were filling with tears. She needs help. Derek's face flushed red. His voice got louder. Then you're done. Security. 2 guards appeared from the back of the store. Marcus recognized them, Phil and Tony. He'd worked alongside them for 2 years. They approached slowly, reluctantly. Derek was shouting now. This is insubordination. This is exactly what happens when people forget their place. He gestured at Evelyn. People like her bring down the whole neighborhood. We have standards here. Evelyn was crying, soft, frightened sounds. Marcus wouldn't let go of her hand. And her, Derek snapped, both of them, out. Phil and Tony looked at each other, then at Marcus. Tony's jaw was tight. Come on, Marcus, Tony muttered. Don't make this harder. Marcus stood slowly. He kept holding Evelyn's hand. He helped her to her feet. She was shaking so hard she could barely stand. Crisis response is on the way, Marcus said to the guards. She can't be alone. Not our problem, Derek said. He turned to the watching crowd. This is what happens when you forget your place. Let this be a lesson. The guard, rain and cold air rushed in. Outside, the wet sidewalk gleamed under the streetlights. The rain was steady, cold. Marcus's uniform shirt soaked through immediately. You're fired, Chen, Derek called from the doorway. Don't come back. The doors slid shut. Marcus stood there on the sidewalk with Evelyn. She was crying harder now, terrified and confused. It's okay, Marcus said softly. You're not alone. I'm right here. Behind them, through the store windows, Derek made another announcement. People dispersed. The teenager was already typing on his phone, probably posting the video with some mocking caption. Then Marcus heard footsteps running. Lily burst through the doors, her backpack bouncing. She ran to him and grabbed him around the waist, sobbing. Dad, she cried. Dad, I'm sorry. Marcus put his free arm around her. His other hand still held Evelyn's. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay, sweetheart. It's okay. But you lost your job, because I said. No, Marcus said firmly. Not because of you. Never because of you. Marcus guided Evelyn and Lily under the store's awning, where the overhang gave some shelter. They sat on the curb together. Evelyn was still holding his hand. Lily pressed against his side, shivering. Marcus's career was over. His only source of income, gone. Rent was due in 9 days. But crisis response was coming. Someone would help Evelyn get home. And until they arrived, he would sit here in the rain and hold the hand of a frightened woman who needed someone to tell her she wasn't alone. 20 minutes passed. The rain didn't stop. His uniform shirt was soaked through. Water dripped from his hair down his neck. Evelyn had stopped crying but still held his hand. Her grip was weak now, exhausted. Lily pressed against his side, shivering. Her purple backpack sat in a puddle beside her. Then headlights swept across them. A black Mercedes pulled to the curb fast, tires hissing on wet pavement. The engine cut, the driver's door flew open. A woman burst out. She was in her 50s, elegant even in her panic, wearing a coat that probably cost more than Marcus made in a month. Her face was pale. She ran to Evelyn and dropped to her knees on the wet sidewalk. She grabbed the elderly woman's shoulders, searching her face. "Oh my God, Mother." I've been looking everywhere. 6 hours. I thought. Evelyn blinked at her. Recognition flickered. Margaret? Yes. Yes. Yes, it's me. Margaret pulled her mother into her arms and wept. Relief poured out of her in shaking sobs. Evelyn patted her daughter's back with trembling hands, confused but comforted. Marcus stood slowly. She looked at Marcus for the first time, at his soaked employee vest, at Lily standing beside him, small and wet and holding her father's hand. "You found her," Margaret whispered. "You stayed with her." "She needed help," Marcus said. Margaret's eyes filled again. She reached into her purse, pulled out a wallet. Her hands shook as she opened it. "Please, let me give you something. A reward. Anything." "No, ma'am." "But you lost your job because of this. I heard him. That man fired you. It's okay." "It's not okay." Margaret pulled out bills. 100. "I didn't do it for money. Anyone should have helped." Margaret looked back at the grocery store. Through the bright windows, shoppers moved through aisles, pushing carts, living their lives. The same people who'd walked past her mother. "But they didn't," she said quietly. "Only you did." She put the money away. She pulled out a business card instead and a pen. "At least give me your name, your number. I need to repay this somehow." Marcus hesitated. Then he gave her his information. Margaret wrote it on the back of her card with shake. "And you are?" "Marcus Chen. This is my daughter, Lily." Margaret looked at Lily. The girl was soaped, shivering, her lips turning blue. Margaret's expression shifted to concern. "You both need to get inside. Get warm." "We will." Margaret helped Evelyn to her feet. She guided her mother toward the Mercedes, supporting her weight. At the car door, she turned back. "Thank you, Mr. Chen. I mean that. Thank you." Marcus just nodded. He watched them drive away. The taillights disappeared into the rain. Then he and Lily started walking toward the bus stop. At the apartment that night, Marcus sat at the small kitchen table while Lily showered. The silence pressed in on him. He looked at the calendar on the wall. Rent was due in 12 days. He had enough savings to cover it. Maybe. But after that, nothing. Lily came out in her pajamas, toweling her hair. "Dad, are you okay?" "I'm fine, sweetheart." "Are you mad? About your job?" "No. Are you scared?" He looked at her. 9 years old and already learning to read the things he tried to hide. "No," he lied. "We'll be okay." He held her, his chin resting on top of her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "For what?" "For telling you to help her. If I hadn't." "Lily, no, don't think that. Not ever." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "Would you do it again?" Marcus thought about Evelyn's frightened face, her trembling hands, the way everyone had turned away. "Yes," he said, "I would." The week that followed was a slow erosion. Marcus filled out applications at every store, warehouse, and business within bus range. But the question was always there on the form, reason for leaving. When he wrote "terminated," the applications went nowhere. When he left it blank, they called his references and found out anyway. He stretched their meals. Pasta without sauce, eggs for dinner, peanut butter sandwiches for lunch. Lily noticed. She started taking smaller portions at dinner. "I'm not that hungry, Dad. You need to eat. I'm full. Really." On Friday, Marcus got a call from Lily's school. The cafeteria manager asked if there was a problem with Lily's lunch account. She hadn't been using it all week. Marcus's stomach dropped. "She's been coming through the line, but she's not taking any food, just a milk. We thought maybe there was an issue with the account." Marcus thanked her and ended the call. His hands were shaking. When Lily came home that afternoon, he was waiting in the kitchen. "Sit down," he said quietly. She sat. She knew. "Why aren't you eating lunch at school?" Lily looked at her hands. I'm not hungry at lunch. Don't lie to me. Her eyes filled. I'm saving the money, so you don't have to worry about it. Something broke in Marcus's chest. He pulled her into his arms and, "You don't do that," he whispered. "You don't sacrifice for me. I'm the parent. I take care of you. But we don't have money. We have enough. We always have enough for you. Do you understand me?" She nodded against his shoulder. That night, after Lily was asleep, Marcus sat alone in the dark. He'd done the right thing at the store. He knew that. But Lily was paying the price. He'd chosen to help a stranger, and now his daughter was skipping meals to save money for rent. The weight of it crushed him. A knock at the door startled him. It was late. A man in a suit stood in the hallway, professional, polished, holding a leather briefcase. "Mr. Chen?" "Yes, my name is David Reeves. I'm an attorney with the Hartwell Foundation." He handed Marcus a card. "Ms. Margaret Hartwell asked me to find you. She'd like to meet with you if you're willing." Marcus stared at the card. The Hartwell Foundation. He'd never heard of it. What does she want? The lawyer smiled. "She'd like to discuss an opportunity, one that might interest you very much." The coffee shop was in a part of downtown Marcus rarely visited, the kind of place where a cup of coffee cost what he used to spend on groceries for 2 days. Margaret Hartwell sat at a corner table by the window. She stood when Marcus approached. Her handshake was firm, warm. "Thank you for meeting me, Mr. Chen. You didn't have to do this. Sit, please." He sat. The chair was comfortable. Everything in this place was comfortable. It made him feel like he didn't belong. Margaret slid a folder across the table. She kept her hand on it for a moment. "My mother is the widow of Richard Hartwell. He built one of the largest real estate companies in the... When he died, he left everything to her. The Hartwell Foundation manages those assets. $1.3 billion. Marcus didn't know what to say to that. "We're endowing a new community arts center here in Portland," Margaret continued. "A place where anyone can learn music, painting, theater, no auditions, no fees. Art shouldn't be a luxury for people who can afford it. It should be a human need, like food or shelter." She opened the folder. Inside was a job description, a salary figure. Marcus stared at the number. It was more than he'd made. "We need a director of music programs," Margaret said. "Someone who understands what I just said. Someone who sees people, not problems." Marcus looked up. "I don't understand. I pulled the security footage from the store. Every angle. I watched the whole thing." Margaret's voice was steady, but her eyes were fierce. "I saw people walk past my mother like she was trash on the sidewalk. I saw you stop. I saw you hold her hand. I saw that man humiliate you in front of everyone, and I saw you refuse to let go of her." She leaned forward. "Or should I say, Marcus Chen Adler?" His breath stopped. Berlin Philharmonic debut at 19 years old. Youngest performer to record the complete Rachmaninoff concertos. You were on a European tour in April 2022. Sold out every venue. Then you disappeared." She paused. "Your wife, Elena. She was your manager. She died." Marcus's hands were shaking. He put them in his lap under the table. "You saw my mother as a person, not a problem. That's who I need running this program." "I can't," Marcus whispered. "Why not? I haven't played in..." His throat was tight. "I couldn't save her. Elena, I was right there. She collapsed making breakfast for Lily and I didn't know what to do. By the time the ambulance came, she was gone. And now every time I sit at a piano, I see her. I feel her absence in every key." Margaret was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "I'm not asking you to perform. I'm asking you to teach. I don't think I can. My mother has Alzheimer's, Mr. Chen. Most people see the disease. They see confusion. They see burden. You saw her. A person who needed help." Margaret's voice softened, but she still hums the songs from her childhood. Music outlasts memory. It outlasts grief. She slid the folder closer to him. Think about it. For Lily, if not for yourself. Marcus took the folder. His hands were still shaking. That night, Lily was already asleep when Marcus sat down in the dark living room. He didn't turn on the lights. He just sat on the couch with the folder on his lap, staring at nothing. The bedroom door opened. Lily padded out in her pajamas. "Dad, you should be asleep." "So should—" "I'm sad I can't give you more, sweetheart." Lily pulled back and looked at him. In the dim light from the window, her face was serious. Too serious for 9 years old. "You give me everything that matters. You show me how to be good even when it's hard. Mom would be proud of you." Marcus's chest ached. He pulled her close. Lily disappeared into her room. She came back a minute later with her tablet. She climbed back onto the couch and turned it on. The screen glowed blue in the darkness. "I found something," she said. She pulled up a video, pressed play. The screen showed a concert hall. A grand piano on stage. A young man walked out to applause. Marcus recognized himself. Younger. Leaner. His hair still dark. He sat at the piano and began to play. The sound from the tablet speakers was thin, tinny. But Marcus remembered. He remembered the weight of the keys under his fingers, the resonance filling the hall, the feeling of the music pouring out of him like something he'd been holding back his whole life. And there, in the wings, barely visible at the edge of the frame, stood Elena, watching him, smiling. For you, for her. The video ended. Lily looked up at him. "When are you going to believe in yourself?" Marcus couldn't answer. He just held her until she fell asleep against his shoulder. Then he carried her to bed and tucked her in. The next morning, Marcus took the bus across town to the construction site where the arts center was being built. The building was still unfinished. Exposed beams, plastic sheeting over windows, the smell of fresh concrete and sawdust. A security guard let him through when he showed Margaret's business card. Inside, the main performance, rows of seats not yet installed, a stage at one end, and there against the back wall, covered in a protective tarp, sat a piano. Marcus walked to it slowly. He pulled back the tarp. It was an upright, old but well-maintained, the kind of piano he'd learned on as a child, before the concert halls and the recordings and the European tours. He sat on the bench. The wood was cool under him. Dust hung in the air, caught in beams of light from the unfinished windows. He lifted his hands. They were shaking. He touched middle C. His breath came short. He saw Elena in the kitchen, saw her smile, saw her turn to ask him something, saw her face change, saw her fall. The shaking got worse. He couldn't control it. He pulled his hands back. He stood, covered the piano again, walked out of the building without looking back. The note was still ringing in his head when he reached the street, and he knew with absolute certainty that whatever Margaret Hartwell was offering him, he wasn't ready to accept it. 2 weeks after Marcus's failed attempt at the piano, that one had died in obscurity. But someone else had filmed the entire incident from a different angle. The whole thing, from Marcus kneeling beside Evelyn to Derek's performance to the firing in the rain. They posted it with a simple caption, "Man fired for helping lost elderly woman. The only one who stopped." The views climbed into the hundreds of thousands, then millions. The comments section became a battleground. Some people called Marcus a hero. Others said Derek was just doing his job. Someone started a GoFundMe for Marcus's rent. Someone else. The grocery store's corporate office issued a statement so bland it said nothing. "We are reviewing the incident and will take appropriate action." Derek Pemberton was placed on administrative leave with pay, not fired. just removed from the schedule while they investigated. Derek sat in his apartment watching the view count rise, watching strangers argue about him in comment threads, watching his face become a meme. Someone had made a side-by-side image, Derek pointing at Evelyn with the caption, "People like her bring down the neighborhood," next to a photo of Marcus holding her hand with the caption, "People like him restore your faith in humanity." Derek's hands shook with rage. His phone rang constantly. Friends avoiding him. Family asking if the video was real. A reporter wanting a comment. He didn't answer any of them. Then a co-worker from the store called. Someone Derek had helped get promoted 6 months ago. The conversation was brief, uncomfortable, but at the end, the co-worker mentioned something in passing. "Did you hear about Chen? Apparently he's got some big job offer now, Hartwell Foundation or something, running an arts center. Crazy, right?" Derek ended the call. He sat very still. Marcus Chen, the man who'd humiliated him. The man who'd humiliated him. The man in the viral video. Getting a job at a billion-dollar foundation? Derek opened his laptop. He started researching. The Hartwell Foundation. Margaret Hartwell. Evelyn Hartwell. Realist. He watched the grocery store footage again. This time, he watched it differently. Not as a memory, as evidence. Marcus refusing to remove Evelyn when ordered. Marcus prolonging the interaction even after Derek told him to stop. Marcus on the curb with her for 20 minutes before her daughter arrived. What if it wasn't heroism? What if it wasn't heroism? What if it was manipulation? Derek started making calls. Local news stations. His pitch was simple. He was a whistleblower. He'd seen something wrong and been punished for trying to protect store policy. But the real story, Marcus Chen had targeted a vulnerable elderly woman with dementia. He'd deliberately extended the interaction, refused to let her go, kept her there until her wealthy daughter arrived. And now, conveniently, he had a job offer from that same family. Most reporters weren't interested. But one was. A local evening news producer looking for controversy. Good Samaritan or opportunist? Ran on a Thursday night. The segment was 6 minutes long. It showed the grocery store footage. It showed Derek in a professionally lit interview explaining his concerns. "I was trying to protect a confused elderly woman from being exploited. And when I enforced store policy to keep her safe, I was the one who got punished." The segment showed a lawyer talking about elder abuse and financial exploitation. It showed the timeline, Marcus with Evelyn, Margaret's arrival, the job offer weeks later. It never mentioned that Marcus had refused Margaret's money on the curb that night. It never mentioned that he'd called crisis response before Derek even appeared. The segment ended with a question, was this kindness, or was this something else? Other outlets picked it up. The comment sections turned uglier. People who'd defended Marcus started questioning. The Hartwell Foundation's office received calls, emails, letters expressing concern about their hiring practices. Margaret Hartwell's assistant fielded them all, but some went higher. Board members started asking questions. Donors wanted reassurance. The foundation's reputation was at stake. The city council, which had been prepared to rubber-stamp the arts center funding, suddenly faced opposition. 3 councilors. They wanted to delay the vote pending an investigation into Marcus's character. Margaret called Marcus to warn him. Her voice was steady but strained. "They're making this ugly. The council meeting is scheduled for Monday evening. It's going to be public. There will be media. You need to be prepared." Marcus sat in his apartment after the call ended. The television was on. A news anchor was discussing the controversy surrounding the Hartwell Foundation's hiring practices. Lily came home from school and dropped her backpack by the door. Her eyes were red. "Dad, what happened?" "Kids at school were asking me about the video, about the lady." About you." Her voice cracked. "They said you were trying to steal money from old people." Marcus pulled her into his arms. She cried against his shoulder. "Dad, why are people being so mean? You didn't do anything wrong." He had no answer. That night, Marcus drafted an email to Margaret. He would withdraw from the position. He would release a statement saying the foundation had no knowledge of his past, that this was all a misunderstanding, that he took full responsibility. It was what he knew how to do. He was about to hit send when Lily appeared in the doorway. She was holding her tablet. "Dad, wait." She sat beside him on the couch. Her face was serious, older than 9 years old should look. "You told me Mom always said the truth matters more than what people think. Is that still true?" Marcus stared at her. "Yes." "Then why are you hiding?" She opened a folder on her tablet. Inside were files Marcus recognized. Elena's archive, recordings of his performances that she'd kept, organized by date and... The video showed a concert hall in Paris, Marcus on stage, younger, confident, whole. He began to play Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. The camera stayed on him for a moment, then panned slightly. There, standing in the wings, barely visible in the shadows, was Elena, watching him, smiling. This was the last piece Marcus had played before she died, the last performance of his career. 3 days later, she was gone. Lily paused the video on Elena's face. "She believed in you," Lily said quietly. At the tablet screen showing Elena's smile. At the email draft on his laptop ready to surrender everything. He closed the laptop without sending it. "What do I do?" he whispered. Lily took his hand. "You show up. That's what you always taught me. When something's hard, you show up anyway." The council meeting was Monday evening, 3 days away. Marcus had 3 days to figure out how to defend himself against accusations he couldn't disprove with words alone. 3 days to decide if he was ready to step back into the spotlight he'd fled 3 years ago. 3 days to choose between the safety of invisibility and the risk of being seen. And somewhere in a small apartment across town, Derek Pemberton was preparing his testimony. Convinced that Monday evening would be his vindication, neither of them knew that the real test wouldn't be in the accusations or the defense. It would be in a moment Marcus hadn't planned for. In front of an instrument he hadn't touched in 3 years. In front of everyone he'd been hiding from. Monday was coming. The city council chamber was built in the 1950s and hadn't been updated much since. High ceilings, wood paneling, rows of seats facing a raised platform where 7 council members sat behind a long table. Every seat was filled. People stood along the back wall. Camera crews from 3 local news stations had set up near the front. Marcus walked in with Lily and felt the weight of every eye in the room. Derek Pemberton sat in the 3rd row on the left side. He wore a navy suit and a red tie. His receding hairline was slicked back with gel. In front of him on the seat sat a leather folder filled with printed documents. He looked confident. Margaret Hartwell sat on the right side with her mother Evelyn. Evelyn was having a clear day. She'd insisted on coming. She wore a cream-colored dress and pearl earrings. Her hands rested folded in her lap. Marcus and Lily took seats near the back. Lily's purple backpack sat at her feet. She held Marcus's hand tighter than necessary. The council president called the meeting to order at 6:15. The chambers settled into quiet. Agenda items were read. Routine business was conducted. Then the president announced, Item 7, Hartwell Foundation Arts Center Funding Proposal. People leaned forward. A council member named Patricia Hammond spoke first. She was in her 60s, gray hair cut short, reading glasses on a chain around her neck. This proposal would allocate city matching funds to support the Hartwell Foundation's Community Arts Center. The foundation has committed $12 million. They're asking the city to contribute $2 million over 5 years. Another council member, younger, a man named David Chen, added context. This would provide free arts education to underserved communities. Public comment period opened. A woman who ran a community nonprofit spoke in favor. Our kids need this. Art programs have been cut from schools for 20 years. This gives them back. A man representing local music teachers spoke in favor. This isn't competing with private instruction. This is reaching kids who would never have access otherwise. Then a council member named Robert Torres raised his hand. He was in his 40s, well-dressed, spoke with the careful precision of someone who'd rehearsed. I have concerns about the foundation's proposed director of music programs. The room went still. Torres continued. Character matters when we're talking about public trust and city funds. I've seen troubling reports about Marcus Chen. Questions about how he came to be connected with the Hartwell family in the first place. Margaret started to stand. The council president raised a hand. Mr. Torres, do you have specific concerns you'd like to raise? I think we should hear from someone with direct knowledge. Derek Pemberton is here tonight and has requested to speak. Derek stood. He walked to the podium with his leather folder. He placed it on the lectern and opened it with practiced precision. Thank you for letting me speak, Derek said. His voice was steady, reasonable. My name is Derek Pemberton. I was assistant manager at the grocery store where this incident occurred. I'm here tonight because I'm concerned about elder abuse and financial exploitation. He pulled out a printed timeline, held it up. On the evening in question, Marcus Chen encountered Evelyn Hartwell, a woman with Alzheimer's disease who was lost and confused. Security footage shows Mr. Kung, Chen refusing to let her go even when asked repeatedly by store management. He prolonged the interaction. He kept her there until her daughter arrived. Derek's voice took on weight. 23 days later, Mr. Chen received a job offer from the Hartwell Foundation, a position that would pay him more than $100,000 a year. That's not coincidence. That's calculation. A few people in the audience murmured. Derek pressed on. This man saw an opportunity in a vulnerable woman's confusion. He positioned himself. That's not kindness. That's predation. Some council members nodded. Others looked skeptical. The room was divided, tense. Margaret stood. May I respond? The council president nodded. Margaret walked to the front with a tablet in her hands. I have the complete security footage from that night. All angles. I'd like the council to see what actually happened. But before she could continue, Marcus stood. Wait, he said quietly. Everyone turned. Marcus walked forward slowly. Lily watched him. He walked to the side of the room, where an old upright piano sat against the wall. It had been there for years, left over from when the chamber was used for community events. Most people forgot it existed. Marcus stood beside it. His hands were shaking. Margaret looked at him, uncertain. Marcus? He looked at the council members. At Derek. At the cameras. At the crowd of strangers who'd come to judge him. Then he looked at Lily. She was sitting forward in her seat now, small and serious. She met his eyes across the room and mouthed 2 words. The wood creaked under his weight. He lifted the fallboard. The keys were dusty, yellowed with age. The room went completely silent. Marcus's hands hovered over the keys. They were shaking so badly he didn't know if he could control them. He hadn't played in 3 years. Not since Elena died. Not since Elena died. Not since he'd walked away from everything that music had meant to him. But Lily was watching. And Elena's voice was in his head, clear as the day she'd said it. Just play, Marcus. The rest is noise. He closed his eyes and let his hands find middle. Not dying. He saw her backstage at the Philharmonie de Paris 3 years ago, standing in the wings where she always stood. She was smiling at him, the way she smiled when he was nervous before a performance. She leaned close and whispered what she always whispered. "Just play, Marcus. The rest is noise." His hands found the keys. The first note was thin, uncertain. His fingers felt stiff. The second note came easier. The third found its place. And then something shifted. Muscle memory older than grief took over. His hands remembered what his mind had tried to forget. Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major poured out of him like water from a broken dam. It wasn't perfect. The old piano was out of tune. His technique was rusty from 3 years of silence. But none of that mattered. Every note carried weight. Pain and beauty woven together. Love and loss inseparable. Each phrase was a conversation with the woman who wasn't there anymore. Each rest was a breath he'd taken beside her. Each crescendo was every morning she'd made Lily breakfast. Each diminuendo was the moment, only the confession, only the truth he'd been carrying alone for 3 years, finally spoken in a language that didn't require words. When the final note faded, he kept his hands on the keys. His eyes stayed closed. He wasn't ready to come back yet. Silence held the room. No one moved. No one breathed. Then someone in the back row stood. Marcus opened his eyes. An older man, maybe 70, was on his feet. His face was pale. His mouth hung open. "My God," the man said. His voice cracked. "That's..." Phones came out, not to record, to search. People typing, scrolling, finding. Whispers spread through the chamber like fire through dry grass. "He's right. Look at this. YouTube, there are videos. Concert pianist, look at the reviews." Someone held up their phone showing a photo from a concert program. Marcus in a tuxedo, younger, standing beside a grand piano. The caption read, "Marcus Chen Adler, rising star of classical piano." A woman near the front turned in her seat. "Why are you in Portland working at a grocery store?" Marcus stood. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but it carried. The room had gone so still that every word landed clear. "My wife died. I was raising my daughter alone. Music felt impossible." He paused. Looked at Lily. She was crying but smiling at the same time. "So I did what I had to do. I stocked shelves. I mopped floors." He turned to face Derek. Then the council. Then the cameras. "And when I saw someone who needed help, I helped her. Because that's what my wife taught me. You show up for people." The screen behind the council lit up. "I'd like the council to see the full security footage from that night," she said. The video played. Silent. Damning. The grocery store. Evening shoppers. Evelyn wandering through the automatic doors, confused and frightened. The well-dressed couple sidestepping her. The teenager filming her with a smirk. The cashiers looking away. Person after person turning their backs. Then Marcus. Setting down his box cutter. Walking toward her. Kneeling, taking her. Margaret's black Mercedes arriving. Margaret dropping to her knees beside her mother. Marcus still there in the rain. Lily shivering beside him. Margaret trying to give him money. Marcus refusing. The video ended. The screen went dark. Margaret disconnected her tablet. She walked to where her mother sat and helped Evelyn to her feet. Evelyn moved slowly to the front. Margaret brought the microphone to her. Evelyn's hands trembled. Her voice was soft, but the room was silent enough to hear every word. "But I remember a kind man holding my hand when I was frightened. I remember feeling safe." She looked at Marcus. Recognition flickered in her eyes. "My daughter says he saved my life. I'd been wandering for hours. I was cold. I was lost." She turned. Her eyes found Derek. For a moment the fog cleared and she saw him exactly as he was. Everything else is noise. That man has a good heart. She pointed at Marcus. Then she pointed at Derek. That man has a cruel one. I know the difference. Margaret helped her mother back to her seat. The council. Then Patricia Hammond, the council member who'd opened the meeting, leaned forward. She looked directly at Derek. Mr. Pemberton, you made serious accusations tonight. But I have a question. Derek stood. His face was flushed. His tie was crooked. Did you watch this woman wander through the store in distress and do nothing? I was monitoring the situation from the office. That's not what I asked. Did you watch her in distress and do nothing? Derek's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. I was protecting store policy. That's a yes. Patricia's voice. And then you fired the one employee who helped her? He disobeyed a direct order. The order to abandon a confused elderly woman on the street. Patricia looked at the other council members. I've heard enough. I'm ready to vote. The council president nodded. All in favor of approving the Hartwell Foundation Arts Center funding as proposed? 7 hands went up. Unanimous. The motion carries. The president's gavel fell. Furthermore, the council formally commends Marcus Chen for his actions on the night in question. Derek stood frozen. His folder of printed evidence hung limp in his hand. His face had gone from red to gray. He turned and walked out. No one stopped him. No one followed. The door closed behind him with a soft click. The chamber erupted. Applause. People standing. Camera flashes. Lily ran to Marcus and threw her arms around him. He held her, and she held him. And for a moment the noise of the room faded, and there was just the two of them. Marcus looked over Lily's head and found Margaret Hartwell. She was helping. In that moment, everything that had been broken for 3 years felt like, maybe, finally, it could start to heal. The rest happened quickly. The grocery store's corporate office launched an investigation into Derek Pemberton. It took less than a week to find the pattern. 5 other employees with complaints about harassment, 3 incidents of vulnerable people being ejected from stores under his management, internal emails where Derek bragged about cleaning up the riffraff and maintaining standards. He was terminated, blacklisted from retail management position. His carefully constructed narrative collapsed under the weight of his own documented cruelty. The teenager who'd filmed Evelyn with mockery posted a public apology. His grandmother had seen the full story on the news and made him watch it 3 times. She'd made him write the apology by hand before typing it. I was wrong, it read. I saw someone who needed help and I made it worse. I'm sorry. 6 months passed. The Hartwell Community Arts Center opened on a bright Saturday morning in October. The building stood at the corner of Morrison and 10th, all glass and warm wood, designed to feel welcoming rather than intimidating. A banner over the entrance read, Art for Everyone. Marcus stood in the main music room watching children arrive for the first day of classes. Some came with parents. Some came alone. Some carried instrument cases. Most didn't. It didn't matter. There were no auditions, no fees, no barriers. A boy about 12 approached Marcus shyly. Is it true anyone can learn here? It's true. Even if I... The boy smiled and took a seat at one of the keyboards along the wall. Marcus's hands still shook sometimes, especially in the mornings. But he'd learned they didn't disqualify him from teaching. They didn't stop him from showing a child where to place their fingers. They didn't prevent him from demonstrating a simple melody. Lily took lessons from him twice a week. She was learning Chopin now. Not the Nocturne yet. That would come later. For now, she practiced simpler pieces. Her fingers were small but determined. Evelyn Hartwell visited on her clearer days. Margaret would bring her, and Evelyn would sit in the small recital hall and listen to children's first halting performances. Sometimes she hummed along. Sometimes she remembered the kind man who held her hand. Sometimes she forgot everything except the music. On those days, Marcus always sat with her for a few minutes. He'd hold her hand the way he had that night in the rain. He'd tell her about the students. She'd smile and pat his hand and say, "You have a kind face." Every time, it broke his heart a little. Every time, it put it back together. Marcus and Lily drove to the cemetery in the morning. The sky was clear, the air cool. The leaves on the trees were starting to turn. Elena's grave was in a quiet section near a maple tree. The headstone was simple: her name, her dates, the words, "Beloved wife and mother." Fresh flowers sat in the vase. Yellow roses. Margaret had left them. She did this every year now without being asked. A quiet gesture of gratitude that needed no acknowledgement. Marcus and Lily stood in front of the headstone. Lily was holding a small origami. She placed it carefully at the base of the stone. Marcus knelt. He touched the engraved letters of Elena's name. "The center opened," he said quietly. "You should see it. The kids are amazing. There's a boy learning cello, a girl who wants to compose, a single mother whose son discovered he can sing." Lily knelt beside him. She leaned against the headstone like she was leaning against her mother. "There's this one girl," Marcus continued, "maybe 10 years old, painfully shy, wouldn't look anyone in the eye. But she sat at the piano. Today she played for the whole class. You would have loved seeing it." His voice caught. He cleared his throat. "I play again, not like before, but enough. Enough to teach. Enough to show them that music isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, about letting beauty into the world even when the world is hard." Lily looked up at him. Her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. "We're okay, Mom," she said to the headstone. "Dad's okay. He plays again." Marcus nodded. "Every note is for you." They sat in. Finally, Lily stood. She took Marcus's hand, her small fingers wrapped around his calloused ones. "Mom always said the world needs more people who stop when everyone else walks past," she said. "You're that person, Dad." Marcus stood. He looked at his daughter. 9 years old and already wise in ways he was still learning. "Your mom taught me that," he said. "And you taught me that," he said. They walked back to the car hand in hand. The morning sun was warm on their faces. Behind them, the origami heart rested against Elena's headstone, a small, bright thing in the grass. At the center that afternoon, Marcus taught his classes. His hands shook a little during the advanced session, but it didn't matter. The students didn't notice, or if they did, they didn't care. They were too focused on the music. That evening, after everyone had gone, Marcus sat alone at the grand piano in the recital hall. The room was dark except for the light from the parking lot filtering through the windows. He played Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, all the way through. Every note. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And then he closed the piano and went home. Real wealth, he'd learned, isn't counted in bank accounts. Real character isn't proven in comfort. It's proven in the moment when someone needs help and you're the only one willing to see them. Not as an inconvenience, not as a problem, but as a human being worthy of dignity. In that moment, when you take their hand, you save more than one life. You save more than one life. You save your own. The crowd may ignore, the powerful may punish. But kindness, in the end, is the only currency that compounds into something that lasts. And every day, he taught it to anyone willing to learn.